All right. Hello, and welcome to another episode of Critical Conversations. Sorry that I'm just sort of bumbling around here, but hey, critics, live from Denver. It is Friday night, and just more a couple technical one. We're having a technical issue right now. If you see me a little flustered right now, it's because my phone works fine. The board seems to be working fine, but somehow plugging my phone into the board in order to receive calls from y'all ain't working this week, and I do not know and do not understand why. We took calls before. The board works fine. Everything should be working, but somehow it's not. I don't know if the cable that connects the phone went bad because the phone is operating fine, but for some reason, last second, we're finding out that we're having that technical issue. So we're going to have a show anyway.
Yeah.
Because we are going to do that, because we can still do that.
Yeah.
I am sorry that we are not going to be able to have a call-in show this week. That is more of a disappointment and upset to me, I'm sure, than it is to anybody else. But we're just going to roll with it.
Yeah. I mean, we'll just see what you say in the chat, I guess.
Well, basically, exactly.
Yeah.
What we'll do is follow along with you guys in the chat more closely than we usually do. We try to pay attention throughout anyway, but that's where we're at this week. We do have some things to talk about, and as you can see, I am joined by my beautiful wife, Melissa.
Hello, finally back.
Yes, we are very, very, very happy about that. And yes, I see already in the comments that, yes, we are definitely talking about cult morality, in regards to this Supreme Court thing. That is definitely something that is on my mind that I want to talk about, and definitely on Mel's mind as well.
Absolutely.
Yeah, we are fit to be tied, upset. I am sure some of you join us in this feeling that today, of course, this is not the primary message or subject matter of my channel to talk about abortion rights and Supreme Court things. And certainly I am trying to steer away from the subject of politics as politics. I'm really kind of just not interested in going there. But we have this week a problem, and that problem is that a religious belief or idea and power push behind that is impugning and getting in the way of, cutting across all of our rights in terms of bodily autonomy.
Right, and now our Supreme Court is compromised, and we cannot have faith in it right now, that they'll do the right thing and that they'll follow the law and the Constitution.
Well, yeah, and that's kind of the problem is they're saying it's, not a constitutional issue, and they pushed it back down to the states.
Yeah, but it is, there's a lot of things that are constitutional issues that are not spelled out directly in the Constitution, and the scary part is Clarence Thomas is now kind of calling for those to go away too. Yes.
Yeah, there is apparently an order, a sequence here, a plan, right? And this isn't even some deep, dark, I'm just going to say right away, this isn't some deep, dark conspiracy. This is a conspiracy that has been right out in the open this entire time, right? Between Christian nationalists, between the family, if you guys have seen me talk about that. This is a religious group that operates in Washington, D.C., openly, blatantly affecting government, blatantly tearing down the separation between church and state, and encouraging and enabling religious-based legislation and religious, faith-based ideas to rule the day when it comes to our laws. And the majority of the country doesn't believe or feel that way. And that's a big problem when we have a representative republic like ours, where the people we elect to make our laws and oversee those laws via the Supreme Court, we expect them to represent the body of all of us. And
right.
That is kind of a problem right now.
And we expect them to tell the truth in their confirmation hearings too.
Well, of course you do, and because they swear to.
Yeah.
And yet, as I understand it, those confirmation hearings are under oath. If I'm wrong about that, you guys will correct me. But whether they are or not, they certainly should be telling the truth. And apparently, that is the track record is that is not what happened. And that, again, blatant lies are kind of told here. This is all sort of built right in front of us. And while individually we are powerless to stop it, collectively we're not. But, we have a real hard time. And this is one of the things one of the points I wanted to make today is that we have a real hard time in our immediate view of what we think is right and good. We will commit long-term stupidities, right, for the sake of short-term gain, right? Because we can see it. It's right in front of us. I'm going to make this money, or I'm going to get this influence, or I'm going to feel good about this thing. And so therefore it's the right thing to do, and completely ignoring longer term, medium and longer term repercussions and consequences of those decisions. And we all do this, and there's not anybody watching this who can say they haven't. We all know what it feels like to feed our need in the moment, and damn the consequences and screw all that. And I don't care what my parents said. I don't care what my boss said. I don't care what my spouse said. I don't care what my kids said. Screw all that. I know what to do, and when we move forward as though, we have, we feel very righteous, might be a word to describe that kind of feeling. And if there are other words that are better, but that's what comes to mind here. So anyway, thank you, Red Pill. And yes, I am definitely thinking about and working on the technical aspects of the show to have backups and stuff. This is my phone connection, just to throw it out there, has been the most stable steady Eddie thing I've had. Didn't even see this coming. It was literally just something that popped up within 5 minutes of the show starting, and it's hard to even test those things. So I do need to get more Johnny on the spot on this stuff. I agree, and I am working on that. So I will I will eat my crow and take my drubbings on that. Now I am hogging the mic over here. Okay. You have a quote, and you have some expressions and feelings on this as well.
Mostly I just want to scream a lot. Can I just scream for 20 minutes straight? That would be all right. All right, so this quote is obviously going to be about abortion. It is. I cannot understand anti-abortion arguments that center on the sanctity of life. As a species, we've fairly comprehensively demonstrated that we don't believe in the sanctity of life. The shrugging acceptance of war, famine, epidemic, pain, and lifelong poverty shows us that, whatever we tell ourselves, we've made only the most feeble of efforts to really treat human life as sacred. And that's Caitlin Moran.
Yep, and I when she read that to me, before the show, I was like, gotta admit, there's a lot of truth there. This again is this brings up to me another one of these points on the. What we're talking about this week in terms of subject matter, cults and morality, is the relativism of morality, right? The fact that people see things radically different, and justify things according to how they see them. And so this idea that this death is good and this death is bad.
Right. It's like, no, death is just bad.
Well, or is it, right? We have to acknowledge the fact that it is very relative. We make all kinds of choices and judgments based on context and our sense of, right and wrong. And we're getting right into this. I thought we were going to have calls and stuff, so I thought I was going to wait till later in the show to get into this. But just your quote made me think of it. I'm not in any way batting it back at you. Okay. I'm building on it. I'm saying that's very much the case, and it is that way because our morality is so fluid. We can justify anything.
Oh yeah,
anything.
There's always a gray area.
It's all a matter of what serves us in the moment, right? What serves us in what we consider the long-term view in our limited scope and ability to have long-term views. And I'm just talking about average Joe, Sally Sue kind of people. I'm not talking about people who make a living out of, doing analytics or doing analyses and stuff like that. These are people who are trained in how to think in short, medium, and long-term and consequential sort of thinking and stuff like that.
But they probably still mess up sometimes too.
Well, of course they do. They mess up all the time, right? Because it's all tempered by what you think is good and what you think is bad. And really that's the morality. That's where it comes. That's what it comes down to. People have these goofy ideas about morality, as far as I'm concerned, that there's such a thing as objective morality. There's some, writ across the sky or from from Jesus or something that says, well, this is from God and therefore it's always true under all circumstances, or this is a source we can always go to and it will never fail us and there will never be a problem with it. And I have a problem with that because life changes, things change, and our ability to judge and our ability to.
Well, and it's not right to force somebody else to follow morals that are not right for them or they're not interested in. I mean, you can't just push your religion on people because that's not right. You can have whatever belief you want and you could do, you don't want to get an abortion because you think it's murder. Don't. But you don't get to tell the people.
Well, and that's
based on your religion.
Right. And that's the big problem, and that's exactly where I was going, right? Is that because it's so individual, because it's so context specific, as this is the reality of it. I'm just saying this is how it really is. People pretend it's another way, and that's where the problems, that's where the culty thinking comes in. Okay, just to kind of jump to the reveal or the punchline there, right? Is that cults make it absolute. They make it objective. They make it a writ in the sky. They make it that this is the truth and there cannot be any other truth. And it's not relative. And in fact, we were seeing signs in Kansas, kill relativism, not babies, right? This what I'm espousing here, this relative view of ethics and judgment and morality is bitterly fought by cults because they want and sell certainty. They sell answers, not questions. They sell, this is how it's supposed to be. This is the path you are to walk, and there is no straying from this path. And if you stray from it, you are doomed. You are going to hell. You are, dead to us, et cetera, et cetera. All this awful stuff we talk about all the time, right? And this kind of psychologically damaging nonsense that people get up to when they insist that their way is the only highway anybody can and should be walking. That's the cult morality, that 100% across the boards when you're dealing with destructive cults, or you're dealing with even, relating this back down to relationships with a narcissist or an abuser, right, a predator type, you're going to have this is how it is, and you cannot go outside these boundaries, right? Bounded choice. This is what Janja Lalich's work is all about, right? Is that the choices you have are bound. You don't have free will. That's the whole point, is removing free will. And where I wanted to go today with the morality thing is pointing out that without free will, without the ability to decide or choose, make your own choices in the moment, and for the longer term, without that ability, there is no point to morality, right? There's no reason to even be thinking about it because you're just living your life according to what somebody else tells you should be doing or thinking or saying or believing.
I want to address some of these comments.
What do we got? What do we got here?
First of all, talking about how it should be a state's right. No, you should not have a access to healthcare procedure in one state and not in another. That's wrong. Okay? That's just wrong. Period. And to address what Robert Rogers is talking about, most abortions, people were using protection. And they still got pregnant. It happens all the time. Birth control fails. Condoms break.
Well, that is certainly true. And another point about birth control that I think kind of gets brushed under, that we've talked about, is that, you know, the availability of it is actually not as apparent or clear as you might think. You believe because you have easy access to it down at the CVS, or you can go to the supermarket and buy stuff, that that's true everywhere, and it's not. And then there is the cultural norms of different areas of this country that demand that birth control, you know, not be something you have as something you're educated into, that you know about, you know how to use. It's you know, it's a tool of the devil. I've even heard. I mean, I've heard some really nutty stuff.
And by the way, in Clarence Thomas thing that he released today, he talked about getting rid of contraceptive rights too. So it's a little hypocritical for them to say, oh, just, you know, do this and that to prevent a baby. Well, then you're going to take away the prevention methods too.
Right. And
you guys, like, think about it this way. You guys don't want to give welfare benefits either on the pro-life side most of the time. So in about 10 or 20 years, you're going to see a bunch of starving people in the streets because, first of all, it'll be moms who can't afford kids. It'll be kids who are out there because their moms and parents can't afford them. I mean, it's going to be bad.
There are certainly financial and economic concerns here that are being routinely and very loudly ignored by the GOP or by the conservatives, the anti-abortion crowd, right? I was talking to a friend of mine about this today, and the fact that they're really not thinking about this in any way. And this is one of the things I was mentioning about the short-term pleasure, the short-term gain you think you're getting, the short-term gain they think they're getting here with this cancellation of Roe v. Wade is predictable. It's easy to see. I'm not even like some economics major, and I was bringing this up.
There will be more crime because the more poverty breeds more crime.
Well, yeah, that's exactly. There's if you're trying to prevent or fight back against or push back against more welfare state, this is exactly how not to do that. This is going to create more of a welfare state because of these needs that women and and minorities people are going to have as a result of increased birth rates in these populations where, you know, infrastructure and where social safety net is been minimized or, you know, sort of made negated, you know, no, we don't need any of that. We don't want any of that. We don't need any of that. Well, they're gonna, and that's going to become a problem, and they're going to be more of a burden, and then that's going to be federal dollars. That's going to be state dollars going to that. Exactly, right? This is just obvious. This is just an obvious consequence. This isn't even some hidden, you got to dig deep to find it kind of consequence of what's going to happen 10 years from now, 20 years from now, as a result of the enactment of this, just this alone, on top of other things that we could, you know, that play into this. And yes, thank you, RR. I appreciate that super chat, and I appreciate you saying that we're on different sides of this. I wish you could call in and talk about that, because I want to be clear that this isn't a total 100%. Like, I don't see where the other side's coming from on this. Right? I just happen to my, you know, morality, the basis of my ethics has a lot to do with individual rights and choices and free will and a society that enables that to occur. And I don't know that we're totally on different pages when it comes to me saying something like that. I think a lot of people would describe themselves that way. But how do you get there? How do we enact policies and laws that enable free will and individual choice while protecting society and its needs, right? And this is the big argument that we run into all the time. Mm-hmm. So anyway, thank you for that super chat. Anyway, did you have more you wanted to?
It's just some of these arguments I'm seeing, I just don't understand them. Oh, don't have heterosexual sex. Okay, well, like that's ever going to happen. How are you going to stop people? Like, right. People do that. We have a drive. That's what we do.
Yes, exactly. Yes, I do get that. It is the worst week for us to have our phone lines go down. I know, guys. I apologize for that.
Actually, R.R. Smith, in certain situations, I do support suicide. If we're talking about you are very ill, you're not getting any better, and you're in pain, and you know you're going to die anyway, yeah, totally for that. So, once again, it's that gray area. That's that situational morality. But yeah, in some cases, I do support suicide.
Of course. I mean, there are quality of life issues. There are age issues. There's, a person's ability, and again, free will and choice, which should include the ability to, or the choice to decide whether you want to continue living or not. I actually believe that's somebody's personal choice. Now, that being said, I am, have limited training in and have worked with people who are suicidal and very much encourage them to not do that. Right? That would definitely be my first and exclusive approach if I was dealing with somebody who was claiming to have suicidal ideation or thoughts or was hung up on that. But I also know we have things like do not resuscitate options in our lives. What is that? If not approved suicide. Okay, no, we're done. We could bring you back. We could keep this body alive, but you are choosing with this checkbox on this medical form to say you do not want that. And that is okay. We're all okay with that. Well, bring it back a step, and that's kind of where I'm at. And so I do believe that there are contexts and issues where judgment, individual judgment could prevail there. And if it was a rational, thought out choice based on quality of life issues, etc., I would have a real hard time arguing against that. That's just me. I have to go close that window because we're getting a little bit of wind in here. Right. 1 second.
All right. So just looking at these comments, trying to think of how to respond to some of this stuff.
Oh yeah, what are we getting here?
Well, I'm thinking about that Jehovah's Witness statement too. Like, I guess that is sort of kind of forced suicide in a way.
Oh, that's interesting. Hadn't thought about that, Gurroar. Excuse me. Yeah. I get that argument. There's a lot of levels of argument that we could go into on this issue, and I get them, and I get that they are complicated for people, right? Where does life begin? What is a soul? Does that exist, right? What makes a person special? When does consciousness begin? What is it? These are really tough questions, and they don't have any real solid answers in a lot of cases. We have faith-based answers. We have the best we can do with science in certain degrees. But, when you start addressing things like consciousness and life and free will, okay, when does that start? What's that all about? The human baby is not self-sufficient when it's born. That's kind of,
right.
We're almost unique in that regard. And that we have no self-sufficiency. You don't take care of a baby, a human baby, it's dead, period, 100% of the time. But so does it have free will and the ability to enact free will at that point in its life? It's a tough question, right? Yeah. But that doesn't mean we're going to go, running around murdering 1-month-olds, right?
Yeah, exactly.
So there's, this is like kind of, this is tough. This is a tough one. I come back on, for me, my main argument is not what is life? Does it have free will? Should it exist? It really comes down to me to, a mother, a pregnant mom and her fetus baby, the baby that's growing in her, are one. They are joined. They are together. And it is still part of the mother's body. And that's my logic in terms of why it is that a mother should have 100% bodily autonomy in deciding what is happening with her and her body. This is not a controversial judgment with any other medical condition that woman may have. If she has cancer, she gets to choose the mode of treatment, how she's going to go about that, whether she's going to get treatment or not. All of these things are 100% up to her. If she has, if she gets an ovarian cyst, it's 100% up to her as to what she's going to do about that, if anything, how she wants to treat it, who's going to do it, etc. Nobody has any argument with any of that. But when it comes to this baby thing, it's like, well, it's this separate entity. Well, it's not. Not until it's born is it a separate entity. And even then, is it really? I mean, this is a serious question if you really wanted to entertain it.
And the other thing is, realistically speaking, it's actually more dangerous to have a baby than it is to have an abortion for your body and probably your psychology. But you could die in pregnancy. Most people don't die from abortions, but there's a lot more people that die from pregnancy.
Well, sure.
And
it's a dangerous thing to do.
It permanently changes your body. It permanently can scar you and mess you up. It can do all kinds of things to you, and that's not right to force someone into that experience.
Well, very much so. And then, of course, we have, all of the extreme examples that could be used to demonstrate the points, right? Like, okay, so what about women who are raped? Is it okay to force them, to put them in a position where they have no options? They must take this child that they never wanted, don't want to really have anything to do with, and certainly don't want to be reminded of that trauma on a daily basis. And yet there are places that would say, without question, too bad, right? Tough luck.
Yeah.
Right.
And by the way, C-sections are not exactly the greatest way around birth. Yes, they are a way around birth, but they can still be scarring. They can still leave permanent damage.
Well, sure, but they are one of the ways we've made it safer.
Yeah, but there's still all kinds of things that can happen with C-sections.
Absolutely. Having a baby is a perilous process. There's just no way around that. Medical science has advanced in the last 100 years to make it way safer than it's ever been in history. So that's true. The chances of something happening are less now than they ever have been. Mm-hmm. But that doesn't mean it's still not a perilous process. And let's remember, it's a life commitment. It's not 18-year commitment. It's not some legal mumbo jumbo. You are bringing another being into this world. And if I might just go here for a moment, because there is more to this argument than just bodily autonomy and safety issues. There are also issues like, what kind of quality of life is that baby going to have in a home that doesn't want it?
Right.
And if you tell me foster system, fuck you. Sorry, but
same with the adoption system. First of all,
I get really mad about that because we adopted my brother from the foster system, and I've paid a little bit more than normal amount of attention to the foster system, and it's not a viable alternative to give a child a home in a foster system. Believe me, please, when I tell you that is not a place where a child is going to feel and grow up feeling loved and needed and wanted. That's not what the foster system is. So that's not at all any kind of counter to what I'm saying here, which is that you really want children brought up in homes that want them. And unfortunately, when you remove this option, you remove the ability of people who do not want kids, will not do a good job with them, and will potentially probably be abusive parents.
Right.
That's what you're doing when you remove that option off the table for them. You don't have to approve of their lifestyle. You don't have to approve of their morality or their views or anything like that. But do you want somebody who doesn't want their kid to have to raise them and deal with that? What quality of life are we dooming that kid to? Well, it doesn't matter. He's alive. No, it does matter. And it matters a lot.
And if you care so much about the children, I want to understand why supporting them as a country is so not okay? Like, why is it okay to save the baby, but when it's in the mom, but in her womb, but it's not okay to save it after it's been born?
Yeah.
Why is it not okay to fund schools? Why is it not okay to have welfare programs that are well funded and work?
Right. Yeah, we got issues there, right? There's a
Free
number of social.
education,
Exactly. There's a lot of social issues here. I just wanted to bring up that parent thing because I happen to think it's the most core issue to a child's life, right? Their relationship with their parents is core. There isn't anything more basic to what's going on with a kid than his relationship or her relationship with mom and dad. And if mom and dad aren't there, if mom and dad don't care, if mom and dad are absent, if mom and dad are abusive, that child is set up for failure in their life. And potentially, with the wrong genetics in the genetic lottery, that child is turned into a psychopath in such an environment. Mm-hmm. So you could throw out as a hysterical kind of question, well, do you want more psychopaths in the world? And yet, actually, right, if you force this social situation on people, then that is an outcome of it. It's just it's not my opinion that it's going to be that way. It's just kind of how it works out. So yeah, it's complicated. It's nuanced. It's a difficult thing.
And right? Hey, hun, you don't get. There's no guaranteed. There's no law guaranteeing maternity leave. Companies can give you maternity leave. I think you can get up to 12 weeks unpaid or something like that. But there's no paid maternity leave.
No, America's kind of screwed up on that. Yeah, we're not so good on that kind of thing. I wanted to say some more on the cults and morality thing.
Okay.
Only in that I believe that we are seeing right now. I believe that this and other moves that are being made right now are being made, just in case you're kind of wondering how I'm looking at things, and this is a discussion point, is I believe that the GOP, that the conservative party, not conservatism, but this political unit that is supposed to embody conservative values, hasn't in quite some time, but it's supposed to. This GOP, this Republican Party, is on its way out. They are not representative of a majority. By survey across the boards on social issues and even economic issues, you don't find general support for Republican platforms or conservative views. And certainly not, and let's be super, super clear here, because I don't want to paint with too broad a brush, certainly not with the kind of Christian nationalism and extremist sort of views that we see when it comes to things like abortion rights. The majority of this country, and it's not even close, believe that it should be the choice of a woman. They don't want to get involved in it. They don't want to get into the political morass of it. They're just not interested. In general, people are not interested in that. They just want women to be able to kind of decide for themselves and kind of leave it there. And that's where the general morality of the country is at on this. But as I was mentioning, you have, extremist groups who have faith-based or Bible-based or, pastor-based, whatever ideas about this. The really stupid thing is that historically speaking, this whole abortion thing is all just a kind of a trumped up issue anyway. Right. On the part of the Republicans.
Well, and the truth is we figured out how to give ourselves abortions a long, long time ago. Women and men have been trying to get rid of unwanted pregnancies since, a long time ago. They figured out how to be able to get in there.
Well, yeah. I mean, the idea that this or anything else would ever, get rid of the practice is just beyond silly. Yeah. So let's not even entertain that idea.
Right.
Where I was trying to go with that is what Xenu mentions there, right? It is government by the minority, and that is not something we want. And I'm gonna sort of push this out sort of philosophically as that's never what we want. That's the entire opposite of the basis of our country. But the kind of minority that's ruling, that is making these decisions right now, is doing so in a sort of last gasps sort of, if you think about it that way, you'd be more accurate than thinking about it as some kind of theocratic rise to power where we're soon going to be no different than Iran, except, what religion are we pushing? Iran, obviously pushes Islam, and we are pushing Christianity. But other than that, no difference. And that's where America's going, and it's all going over a cliff. And I beg to differ. I don't think that's what's happening. I think what we're seeing right now is a group of people who know the writing is on the wall. They're on their way out. The vast majority of this country does not agree with them and is not going to agree with them. And so it's a bit of okay, well, I'm going to mess up the table on my way out. I'm going to throw everything up in disarray because it's easier and faster for us, these Republicans, right, to these extremist religious nutcases, as far as I'm concerned. And I'm sorry, but I do get a little upset about this. And I'm talking here about the group behind, the family and these Christian nationalists. I'm not talking about all Christians. I'm never talking about all Christians. I'm talking about the extremists. These guys have these fish hooks into the power base right now, and they're using it as much as they can to create as much damage as they can while they can, because they know that that the future is not bright for them, and that they are not going to continue holding power. So they have to take advantage of the power they have and use it to forward their ends as much as possible. Easier to do this now and then make the other guys have to undo it, which always takes more time and resources and work. So I think, so when I think about this, that's how I'm looking at what's happening. And I don't think that these cultic groups are on their way out.
Cults are like a part of human.
Well, as
human behavior,
Exactly. As you guys are going to see in the podcast that posts this week, I did this wonderful talk with John P. Capitalist. He came back on the show, and we did a 2-hour talk about Scientology right now and where it's at, state of Scientology, right? And how fast could we expect it to decline or disappear? And that's the point of the podcast this week. So I think you guys are going to like that. And of course, building on that theme, I don't see, the Church of Scientology is tiny compared to these Christian nationalist groups. And so I don't see these groups disappearing anytime tomorrow. But the thing about those groups is there's lots and lots and lots of them. They rarely are a united front working in unison to get something done. There's so much infighting and so much nonsense that goes on between these groups. That, it's not necessarily that I think about them as this united collective, sort of mass. You can go in to see the individual groups that are part of this whole thing. The part that I find most disturbing and that needs to be eradicated as quickly as possible, and that I think we all need to be thinking about, is the kind of blatant effort to tear down the wall between church and state. Mm-hmm. Right, that's been going on for decades, ever since the 80s, really, when these guys started really thinking about power in a different way.
Yeah.
I think that's what we need to be, most concerned or alarmed with, because, again, unintended consequences.
Right, like someone mentioned earlier in the chat about how Roe v. Wade was one of the foundations that led to HIPAA, the Privacy Act. If they can take Roe, well, maybe they could take HIPAA. And you don't want HIPAA to go away, guys. Because if HIPAA goes away, your employer gets to know all about your medical history.
That's no good.
Yeah. There's no privacy for your medical history anymore if HIPAA goes away. People can share it. Doctors can talk about it to each other.
Right.
You don't want that.
No, I don't think we want that. There's a lot of places that these policy changes can go that these folks aren't thinking about, is kind of the point I'm trying to make. Again, that short-term gain, well, this is the right thing to do, so we need to do it, and damn the consequences. Well, 100% of the time, those consequences are going to come back and bite you in the ass. And in this case, they're going to come back and bite all of us in the ass, because when you start tearing down walls between church and state, right, you do end up opening the door to some other group 10 years from now that you don't even know anything about showing up and walking right through that door you've opened that you didn't think that was ever going to happen, right? I mean, it's just a silly example because this is a benign group, but the Satanic Temple, right? We love this. We love the Satanists. They're wonderful people, but it'll make all the Christians' heads explode if they start gaining government power, right? And representation and over-representation in government, right? Suddenly there's 50 congressional Satanists, right? Like their heads would explode over something like that. Yet that's exactly the kind of outcome that they are opening the door to by tearing down this separation between church and state. So that's the kind of what I'm trying to say there is that's important stuff to think about.
I want to address this HIPAA comment. The thing is
somebody's saying HIPAA's bad.
Yeah, it's not. The reason your parents can't get your or your sister's medical history is because you haven't done a POA. If you do a power of attorney, they can get your medical history. But HIPAA is in place, so even for your parents or children to get their parents' records, you have to have things in place. Because what if your parents are scary people? Or what if you're scary people and you're trying to do something to your parents? That's why HIPAA is there.
Okay.
Sorry, I work in health insurance. I understand HIPAA and I understand why it's there. Because they don't want people like me being on the phone and giving away information that might get people in a lot of trouble in their life.
Makes sense.
Yeah.
By the way, Bud123, thank you for your comment there on how I'm wrong, but I don't believe I said that the majority of Americans want unrestricted access to abortion.
Right.
I'm quite sure those words are not the words I used. I am aware of the fact that a lot of Americans do want certain restrictions. Those restrictions are variable across the country depending on education and policy knowledge and various other factors, but it's still true that the vast majority of Americans, and this again this is not even a contestable point, want women to have access to abortions. And that is what I said, and that's what I meant, and that's what I wanted to get across there just to clarify that point. I really don't mind being wrong, but I don't want to be misquoted. So that happens sometimes. So that's why I wanted to hop in on that.
Yeah.
Okay, so cool on that stuff. Somebody asked about The Boys, just on a different topic.
Yeah, we haven't watched the newest episode yet.
No.
We saw whatever the last one was.
Yeah, Herogasm is the episode this week. We have not watched it yet.
Yeah.
It dropped last night, and Mel was out socializing last night. So we did not watch it, but we will. We've been watching that, and also we've been binging the new season of Barry.
Oh, yeah.
Bill Hader's project. And I have got to say that this show continues to impress. I am always leery, new season. What's it going to bring? Oh, my God. Are they going to go off the rails? Are they going to do some stupid things? And just the opposite. Barry is got to be some of the tightest editing and writing and directing. Bill Hader's directing all the episodes, I guess, this season so far. We happen to be huge Bill Hader fans. Love him. Right, have since Saturday Night Live. I've been following this guy. He's a really, really smart comic.
He is.
And I love smart comics and talented people, and he's very talented. So Barry is definitely a show that I will push 24/7 on my viewers. I wish I was getting paid for all this promotion I do. Anyway, but yes, we are very much looking forward to the next episode of The Boys. We'll be watching that later tonight if all goes according to plan.
Yeah.
Yeah. You want to answer that one?
I got into season 2 and then I haven't watched it in a while. It's like really
Of what?
Afterlife. Sorry, of Afterlife, because it's really hard to watch because it just makes me sad.
I have never seen, and I'm maybe they exist. I'm sure they do. There's tons of movies and TV shows that have been made over the years dealing with grief and how you process grief and how you deal with it.
It is a
But
good show.
I've never seen a show better at it than Afterlife. Ricky Gervais is quite a talented writer when it comes to this, and
like it's not a bad show. It's just hard. It's hard emotionally.
yeah, it's
because
very
it does
hard.
nail it too well. You know?
Oh, like nothing I've ever seen before. He just keeps hitting it and really showing the process of it. And I wish that there was a comparable show to Cult Recovery that wasn't stupid. You know, because I've seen shows about cult recovery that are comedies or, you know, movies or something, and generally they're not great. I would love to see a show of that caliber of Afterlife where he's dealing with that whole grieving process, where we see something like that with somebody dealing with the cult recovery process. That'd be great. Mm-hmm. That'd be really, really good. I don't know that I'm, I don't think I could write something that good. Not as good as Afterlife. He's really, he's quite gifted. Yeah. Yes. Got to keep speaking into the mic. I gotta review this mic situation here. Okay. Yeah, I write it myself, you guys. Working on some other things right now that we're writing. So, okay, so that was that. Mm-hmm. Oh, good. I'm seeing this comment here about Grant Cardone being exposed. I am always happy to see that. I really hate scammers. Mm-hmm. I really do. I can't really put into words the sort of loathing. They're just despicable. I just can't. I can't stand people who take advantage of other people purposefully with malice aforethought, knowing exactly what they're doing and doing it anyway. I am boggled by that behavior. I understand the relative morality of that behavior. I intellectually I do, but you get into the details of it, and it's just, how do you sleep at night doing that to people? How do you possibly think you're living a life that means anything doing that? It just boggles me. And Grant Cardone is one of the worst. He's just such a sleazy, scamming guy, and it's awful to watch people be scammed into that as though it's a lifestyle choice, as though being a bro and and making all this money and scamming people with real estate and stuff and doing your investments and all that stuff, as though that's, I don't know. I just don't understand how that's a life that people would want to live.
Nope.
Boggles me a bit. Takes all kinds, I guess, huh? All right. Yeah, exactly. MLMs as well. And it really, shows. I get asked this, by the way. Here's a good thing to talk about for a minute. Is I get asked all the time about, why are cults still a thing, or why are MLMs still a thing? Because we have the internet now. Even worldwide, you got the internet. You can look stuff up. Why don't people do that? And it comes back down to, as far as I can tell, that short-term gain, right? Well, I can make, I'll just try it. I could make so much, instead of just acknowledging it for what it is. People are desperate, and they're easily sold on promises rather than hard work. Mm-hmm. Hard work is hard, and easy money looks easy. And it takes a few times, I guess, for all of us to kind of come around, the bend and realize there is no such thing as easy money. That's not a thing. Mm-mm. It's just a pipe dream. It's a fantasy. It's a movie. It's a delusion that is sold to people. Easy money there is no such thing, and that's why it really bothered me, just to bring up another topic that I know is going to upset some people. So why not? Since we've done the upset episode here, I think, another thing that I just watched people go over a cliff on, and I'm still watching it to a degree, is the whole crypto NFT thing, non-fungible token, right? These NFTs. It's just such an obvious scam. I just looked at it, just went, it's a scam. It's a total scam. No, scammers use it. It's not a scam. Same thing, man. As far as I'm concerned, it's the same thing. I mean, maybe there is some alternative to hard currency or fiat-based currency or government-issued currency in the technology of cryptocurrency, but not in the iteration, not in the realization of how that was foisted off on the world. It was just a bunch of scammers and people falling for it. And I just, that's what I think. And it will take massive amounts of regulation and understanding on the part of people to get that this easy money thing is just, it's a fantasy, man. It just doesn't, it's not the way the world works. I get so frustrated over watching people get fooled.
Yes.
You know, that's all.
Frustrating.
It is.
It's sad and.
Yeah. Exactly. All right. Well, if you guys have any, I have not seen Doug Kramer's YouTube channel, Dazed But Not Confused. So I guess I'll have to go over and take a look at that, Gurur. I have not seen that. Have you, what, do we have any other questions coming in here?
Just statements. Oh, here we go.
Xion asks, what are the differences in moral codes, ethical codes, creeds, and codes of honor in Scientology? Hubbard's mood that day? I mean, you know, not much. Scientology's ethics was broken down most brilliantly. I really want to plug this for my friend Jeff Hawkins in a book he wrote about the ethics system and ethics and justice in Scientology. So you guys should check that out. I am struggling, of course, right now as I'm promoting his book to remember the title of it. But Jeff Hawkins wrote 2 or 3 books about Scientology after he got out, and that was one of them. And it's a really good takedown of it. That being said, I'm going to answer your question. Scientology ethics is a deceitful system where the written work appears to align with utilitarianism and as an ethics philosophy, the idea of greatest good for greatest number, and that's how you figure what you should be doing. But the reality of the culture of Scientology is always 100% of the time that if it's good for Scientology as a body or a group or an organization, that's what makes it good. And everything in Scientology is aligned around that principle, that Scientology is the objective basis of its morality. There is no questioning, right? If you look at morality, getting back to this for a second, if you look at morality as those rules or guides or codes that you must not, cannot, do not have the power to question, that's where those things come from. Right? That's basically a description of what a moral code is, or what these ethical codes that we have through history are. Is they are the rules and guides that you don't get to question. And in Scientology, the core principle is if it forwards Scientology and it's good for Scientology, it is inherently and basically good. And if it somehow is counter to Scientology or against Scientology's wishes or in some way hurts Scientology, it is inherently and basically bad or evil or suppressive or wrong. And that's the basis of all of Scientology's ethics and justice codes. It's not about you living a better life through this moral code we give you that gives you all these rules for your life. Oh, I follow these and I'll lead a better life. No, you won't. You'll lead a worse life. You'll lead a life that is in alignment with Scientology and its aims and goals, not yours. And that's kind of a difference. That's kind of a big difference. So I don't know. Hope that helps. Hope that makes sense. See what else we got here. Yep. Okay, good. So, you guys have been great.
Yeah.
You guys have been really great this episode. We've been talking about stuff that I know are making people's heads explode out there. And you got your say. Did you have anything else that you wanted to cover, baby?
We didn't mention the loss of being able to sue if they fuck up on the Miranda rights.
Oh yeah, there was another SCOTUS judgment today that came down, or I guess was
Yesterday,
I read report about it.
Yeah.
Miranda rights, right? Apparently, you have to be notified of your Miranda rights, right? Because you cannot be compelled to testify against yourself or give evidence against yourself. That's a right that you have.
If they don't read them to you and then they use evidence that was obtained before reading you the rights, and you get in trouble for that, and you go to jail. You were able to sue. Now you're not. Yeah,
in civil court, you cannot sue the officer who did not read you your rights. They decided that was an option you don't have anymore. I disagree with that in general principles, and it's still in the criminal sense. Miranda is still there. That wasn't messed with. It's just the option of you being able to sue an officer in a civil court who does not read you your rights or inform you of them. That's a right. That's an option you don't have anymore. And that's bullshit. That sucks. That's not cool. And that's, again, the conservative majority overruling the 6-3 vote there. Okay. So we're going to wrap up the show for this week with our critical thinking cards. And I am so happy you are back, baby.
Thank you.
Because you get to choose the card.
Yeah.
I will shuffle these. This is our critical thinking deck of cards. Logical fallacies, cognitive biases, one per card. And every week we select one and read it to y'all.
All right. Anecdotal. I think we know this one. Using personal experience or an isolated example instead of a valid argument, especially to dismiss statistics. Jason said that was all cool and everything, but his grandfather smoked like 30 cigarettes a day and lived until 97. So don't believe everything you read about meta-analysis of sound studies showing proven causal relationships.
Yeah, definitely ignore meta-studies in favor of somebody's story for you.
Because one guy survived, so that means everybody can.
Yeah. That's actually a bigger problem, just to comment on that for a second, than I think is generally realized. I mean, people we are so story driven. I wish I was better at storytelling and coming up with stories for things as examples or anecdotes to demonstrate things I'm talking about, because I know it would communicate better if I could. For that reason, because that bias exists, because anecdotal, we remember it better, we can connect with it better, we can relate to it some fashion better than just getting cold hard facts. It's just how we are, and so we got to that's one of those disciplinary critical thinking points we got to constantly be working on. All right, guys. Thanks for putting up with us for the show this week, and not for putting up with a call-in show where you can't call in. And we're going to address this, get this fixed. We'll figure it out this week. But and we'll see you guys next week. Watch for the podcast tomorrow with John P. And I will be presenting at the International Celtic Studies Association conference, which is happening this weekend. There's a pre-recorded presentation I did with Dr. Stephen Kent from Canada and Phil Lord, the law professor who I had on my show a couple months ago. I did a joint presentation with them on the RPF. And I am not going to be posting that on my channel. For reasons that I can't totally fully explain, I can't post it on my channel exactly. Or I'm choosing not to, I should say. It's not that I can't. I'm just for other reasons. But if you have the opportunity to check out the conference this weekend, you could see that talk amongst many others that are other cool presentations happening this weekend. So that's fun. Oh yeah, I didn't know it was that much for registration. Whoa. Sorry about that. Damn. Yeah. Well, it's, if you're looking for like the hardcore data and survivor stories and workshops and presentations on culty stuff this weekend, that conference, that's where to go. And it's all being put up on the Whova app is how I'm accessing all of that, because it's virtual. It's not an in-person conference. All right. So that all being said, let's wrap up, and I will see you guys next week.
Night.